Welcome to a wonderful episode here. I am Laura Meyer, founder and CEO of Envision Horizons, and I have the pleasure today to speak with David Meers. Now, you are with the Creative Studio, which was founded last year,
Mhm.
and you have done so much in such a short window of time. I'd love to just open up and discuss everything that you've been working on, from the initial development and what's really guided you as you've built this out and what does the future hold?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on. We started with Creative Studio, yeah, last October or November, I think it was. And really, at the time, the idea there was we really wanted to get image generation right. And we wanted to specialize in images with products in them because we know that our advertisers are selling on Amazon, they have a product, they want to do a really good job of that. And we had a lot of great AI models, but we didn't have an experience to go with that. And so that was the original Creative Studio. We've been refreshing that at a really fun rate. And so for folks that have been using it regularly, we've keep improving the design, adding new tools. It could already do dozens of things. And then today we have our next big announcement, which is that now it's agentic. And so now you can actually talk to it, do a bunch of stuff. We'll get deeper into that. And so it's been this really fun pace. As far as what guides what we do, we really believe in being really close with advertisers. And so for this launch today, for example, we've already had dozens of advertisers that we meet with weekly. We've been literally co-developing with them, giving them early access, them telling us what was good and what was bad, right? So that we can
Yeah.
constantly change it. So it's really exciting. You mix that kind of engagement with AI and the pace at which you can improve these things and make them great is really different than anything I've ever seen. And I think we all know that with AI, but it's really fun to be able to live that in the creative studio.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things about AI and creative is just building that trust.
Sure.
So, how are you thinking about making your tools where brands that maybe have really strict brand guidelines, how can that be scalable for them where it doesn't feel like a sea of sameness of all these AI generated images?
Yeah, totally. And this is a great question. We get this a lot, and it's really important to brands, and we care about it a lot. And I would say that Creative Studio, in particular, the version we launched today, is really all about this. So this tool is designed for somebody who knows exactly what their business objective is. They don't have to be a creative at all, but they're able to get into the weeds and really spend some time with the tool and have complete control. And so what that looks like is that if you see anything you don't like, you can easily change it. The model will execute everything for you, and it'll always listen to what you say. It can also come up with ideas if you don't have them, but it will always adhere to whatever you want it to do. And so that control is really important. And we really believe in that as a team. We think that brands have their own voice and that should be injected in these creatives. So it's really about that AI person partnership versus the AI going off and doing something that you don't have control over.
And when it comes to adopting this new tool, how much time would you recommend really using it, experimenting with it to get to a point where you can really have impact?
I would recommend if I was to start knowing nothing about it today, except like the guides and things we launched out
Yeah,
today and the talks, I would go try a little bit of every use case. So you'll see there are pills at the top of it that have 7 use cases that you can do. Some of those, like brainstorming concepts, take about 30 seconds. Others, like making a video, can take a few hours if you want to make a really great video. But at the end of that few hours, you're going to have a professional grade video. So we argue that that's really worth it, right? And really valuable. But I would take a survey of what it can do so that you can kind of understand the different capabilities, and then I would use it on a really specific project, which isn't going to require all those capabilities. But the reason that's important is that I found that as you're using it and kind of wandering through a project, you'll get inspired to do something else. And so I think doing that first test for yourself and really understanding what it can do holistically is a really nice way to start.
yeah, it's part of the creative journey. It's just a
Absolutely.
different version. Instead of whiteboarding, we're leveraging AI to get to the final product.
Yeah, that's right.
How amazing. And given that holiday is right around the corner, if you were a brand or a marketer or creative director, how would you be using this tool in preparation for the busy season?
Yeah, so this tool is especially good at this. And so one anecdote I'll share is that we've already seen a brand, Bird Buddy, launch a campaign a few days before Father's Day. So they didn't have any creative. They were able to use the tool and get a campaign, and it performed really well. It had 3.2 times the CTR of their other campaigns that they see, which was
Amazing.
like insane. And the reason for that was because of the personalization. So perfect for the moment, right? And they were able to create this creative for the moment. And so I would say learn the tool now in anticipation of those holidays, right? So I think that's the key thing. You want to get up to speed, understand how to use it, do the survey and try it out like we just talked about, try it on some other tasks, and then try the holiday thing. tactically, what you're going to do is just tell it what event you're planning for. It's going to be really good at that. It's going to be able to give you a bunch of different options for a given holiday. Like a lot of holidays, they can have different interpretations in the creative, right? And so it lets you kind of try all these different things that you might want to bring in. You can also use previous creatives. That's a great use case. So, like if you loved a campaign you did last year and maybe you don't have the funding to do it that way, again, you can feed that in and recreate it or iterate on it, which is really fun.
Amazing. And so to go back to the example you mentioned for
Hmm.
Father's Day, what did they do? Like, was it just their product with fathers in the image? How were they able to stand out and how were they able to increase that click-through rate?
Yeah, so the things that were key in that creative was that it could do the basics. It showed people actually using the product, the fact that they were able to create a video, like they wouldn't have had a video, and we see that video is really engaging overall. Specifically, it had the type of customer they were looking for, like the right age demographic, the right kind of person who might be the dad who's going to consume the product. So they were able to show those moments. You can imagine that resonating pretty well with customers. And the system also created a really nice tagline for them all around Father's Day. And so, and it was a simple ad. It was 10 seconds long, I think, something like that. And just those little tweaks are so important and so unreachable without AI, right? Like without AI, you either have that funded or you don't for a given holiday. And so it unlocked for that for them.
Amazing. Well, and what is also fantastic is just the ability to do a lot of split testing.
Hmm.
This has always been a big component of our creative department within Envision Horizons is, your first iteration of creative is rarely the best, although sometimes you're surprised.
Right.
And so how are you seeing brands leverage it for A/B testing purposes? And then are we at a point where the performance data is now being incorporated into the creative output?
Yeah, so definitely for experimentation, it's really great. It's really easy to start off with one version of the creative and then say,
Hmm.
"Oh, make me six more versions of that." Or, one thing I've tried that I love is you could swap out the person in the shot, for example, maybe for different audiences that you're trying to reach, or you could take the same product and put it in different types of scenes, or you could put different products in similar scenes. Like these are all campaign types that we've seen and heard about like outside of AI, right? And so you can experiment with all that. The other thing that's crazy about the experimentation is the video. So the fact that you can make a video now in like 90 minutes means that you can now make six videos, right? And they could all be subtly different or very different. And I think that's really exciting because then you can run those and see how they all perform in a way that you couldn't have done before. So that's really what I encourage people to go try and do with this. And it's quite easy to do and it does a really nice job. And you can also, again, also do that with your existing stuff. So if you already have any images or video, you can feed all those in as well and you can tweak them. You can add scenes to videos, you could change the images, and that's all really exciting. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what people will do. I think that's where we're going to see a ton of impact with this thing.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting for marketers and creatives in this space is it's not like this is replacing people's roles, it's really enhancing them. So instead of spending time in a studio, they can really get deep in the creative process of, well, I want to try this, I want to try
Hmm.
this. And that's so amazing that this is the era we're living in.
Yeah.
How are you seeing brands really use it to scale for large catalogs? Because that's always a big pain point, right? Like we have clients with tens of thousands of ASINs. The creative resources go to like their top three parent
Hmm.
ASINs. How are you seeing that type of adoption across large catalogs?
So we hear about this use case all the time. It could be lots of ASINs. We also hear it from really big companies that have lots of brands and not all the
Hmm.
brands get funding, right? And so it's really exciting. So one is that's kind of like the perfect way to use this tool. So it depends what you want to do with a lot of your ASINs. So if you want a cohesive campaign, then the way you'd want to use this tool is you'd want to upload anything that's going to guide whatever you want to be cohesive, right? So if it's a look and feel, you want to upload those images and tell the model this is what it should look like, right? Match my brand colors, etc. If you want it to be different across ASINs, it does that really well too. With different ASINs, I would just open up several parallel chats, put the ASINs in, and one thing that's really nice is we see that you get really thoughtful concepts because it is a reasoning model and it's agentic. It's actually thinking about the products, and so you avoid any worries about generic content or anything.
Yeah. And so one thing I also just want to clarify for the listeners is these tools are just for Amazon ad campaigns, or does this also apply to images you can use on your product detail page? And could you even use these products elsewhere?
So on Amazon, but
Yep.
anywhere on Amazon, you're allowed
Awesome.
to use them. So we hear all the time people are using them on their PDP, brand store, everything. That's something that excites me because I want to see brands be able to tell, again, that cohesive message, right? That really
Yeah.
sophisticated marketing across all the surfaces is possible with this tool. And we're really hearing about people doing that.
And are you seeing brands use the video functionality for big STV campaigns? Or is it more like sponsor brand video ads that there's wider adoption?
We've seen more SBV video ads at this
Hmm.
point. It's going to be easier to use for shorter videos, and it's going to have music and things like that that are good for SBV. And so that's primarily what we've seen so far.
Amazing. And I think there is a old view because everything is progressing so quickly in this space that, AI is just, if we're making it holiday centric, it's just putting the image in front of a stocking.
Right.
That's clearly not where we are
Right.
today.
Yeah.
So, like, what are some of the new advancements that are really taking the output of this tool to the next level?
So it starts with the basics. The models are just so much better. I think in the last 6 months, for me, as someone who
Mm,
follows these models kind of every week, they've changed so much in the last 6 months that if someone hasn't tried it in that time period, they have to re-engage and try because they'll find that things are so different. It can execute more complex shots. The reasoning model and the agentic piece gets you out of that like
mhm.
candle in front of stocking type of photo. Now you can show lifestyle images, you can people, so you can tell real stories, right? And that's where the video piece comes in as well because you can have precursor scenes, you can show your product, show some people using it. You can do any combination that works for you. And so you start to see real ads emerge with real stories, which gets around that kind of static generic thing.
And there's been so much progression in the last 6 months. Where are things going to be 6 months from now or even 12 months? I mean, there's been so much you and your team have already accomplished.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And one thing that's so great about how we built Creative Studio is it gets to benefit from those. We always have the best models in there. The user doesn't even have to care about which models they are. They're just going to always be updated. And so we've already improved it a lot, even pre-launch, and it'll continue to improve really rapidly. I think people are just going to see that every piece of it is going to get better. And I've seen, looking back the last year, for example, a lot of the issues that used to like keep us up at night, like models just can't do that, and that's going to
Hmm.
make it not usable for an ad just went away because a great model came out and we were able to incorporate it and make that better. And so that pace doesn't feel like it's slowing down. And so I think this is going to be more and more part of our world, which is again why we really recommend people to just get hands on with their own use cases.
Yeah.
My thing is like you can only really learn from your for yourself how ready AI is for your business and your thing that you want to do with it. And so you want to just get in there and try it. And then you're going to be right at the crest of that wave, right?
Mhm.
And so the more ready it becomes, the more you're going to be able to leverage that for your business.
And what are you and your teams doing to overcome some of that pre-existing bias of like they tested a year ago?
Right.
Like, how are you keeping people enthusiastic and bringing them back?
So a lot of it starts with the smaller scale stuff like beta testing this tool to make sure it was really great with a
Hmm.
small group of advertisers. A lot of it comes to things like this, like talking about the tool, talking about how we use it, sharing that. We're sharing guides and things, and the content in those guides is made by our team. We're not creatives. We are people who build agents.
Yeah.
We're not professional creatives, right? And so we hope by kind of like putting ourselves out there, we're saying like, hey, we can do it. You can too. We're not having our creatives go build that. So it's kind of a show don't tell type of approach, I guess, that we're trying to take. And we're seeing people are responsive to it. I think again, this reasoning paradigm and the agentic thing helps because people recognize that oh, the system's actually listening to me. And one thing that's cool about it is it tells you what it's hearing as it goes, right? Like it shows you what it's thinking about your brand and how it's thinking about the image. And you can ignore that if you don't want to. You don't have to do anything with that, right? But
Right.
we found that brands are really engaged with that because they're building trust with the system as they use it.
And maybe can you break down a bit more what you truly mean by agentic? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
1.0 versus where you are today. What is that spread? What is that difference?
Yeah, so pre-agentic, these systems would be an application with a set of models, and everything you did would flow through that set of models. And that's great for a given use case, right? So creating a product image, for example, we would get all the data about the product, remove the background, generate a background around it, you'd have
Hmm.
a great image. And we still have that. Those are great. They're really quick
On a
solutions, right?
kitchen counter or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And those are more diverse now too. But
Yeah.
what's nice about so the agent's a little bit different. So the agent is more open-ended. So you start off by you chat with it to talk to it, and you can tell it what you want to do. If you're vague or it doesn't understand, it's smart enough to ask. It'll say, "Well, what kind of ad are we trying to do?" If you tell me you want to make a video, it'll ask you what formats, what duration. And so it all starts with that really understanding what you want as a user. So it can do that. That's new. Then it can do research. So it has access to what we call tools in the industry. So it can go do web search. It goes look at your PDP, your brand store, all of these things. So it pulls in all of that context. Then it can also understand assets. So that's why I keep mentioning upload your images and video because that's so valuable because it can look at those and understand what do you like? What's the view? So things that you can't express in words, you want to express in images and assets. And then it executes. And so it has access to all these other tools that generate images, dozens of tools to do all the tasks for you. So it's like an entire creative team. And you don't have to worry about like who on the team is doing what. But it just goes
Yeah.
and does it for you. But what's nice is it's a chat interface so you can always check in. It'll tell you what's going on and how it's working.
And I appreciate that you call out that it's no longer just passive, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all put things into AI and we're like, oh no. So,
For sure.
from a best use case standpoint, how do you develop a good prompt to really make the most of the tool?
Yeah, great question. I've been recommending that everyone start with concept generation because I think what's nice about that is for someone who knows their brand, which people listening will, they're going to know a great concept when they see it. And we've gotten such great reviews on the concepts from our beta testers. And so that's a simple one. There's not a big how to guide on that. You just tell it you want concepts. And then you can feed in whatever kind of grain you want the concept for, right? So if you want it to advertise a product or if you want it for a bunch of products, you can feed that in and it'll pull it. So that's a good one. As far as prompting, one thing that's nice about this is you really just have to be clear. You don't have to write prompts in the traditional way anymore. You're talking to it. But you do want to be clear about what you want, and then it won't get confused. So just like you might be clear with a coworker that you're trying to like impart some request onto, I would use that mental model when you're working with the tool. But you're not writing image prompts anymore, so there aren't like deep tips we have on that.
Okay.
We do have troubleshooting guides and things, and so there's certain things like one thing I do recommend is if anything's not working, try to simplify it. So if there's too much motion in a video and that's causing some distortions, AI of course still will do that. Just ask it to do a little less motion, try that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I'd imagine too, again, going back to the large catalog
Mhm.
situation, you probably have to do some proper mapping of product benefits to ASIN so that it knows how to incorporate that into unique product line creative versus like, hey, let's just make this all for the holiday season and see what happens.
Yeah, it does a great job. If you give it ASINs, it'll go
Hmm.
find all that.
Okay.
So if you have you're on an off Amazon, some brands have a big off Amazon presence. You can
Hmm.
feed that in as well, and it'll go pull that in too.
Wow.
And then if you have like a new product launch, that's when you have to give it information because if it's
Of
not on the
course.
internet, it can't go get that for you, right? And
Yeah,
that's fun
blank
as well.
slate.
Yeah, but of course the brands have that, right? So and same thing with guidelines, right? Not external information, but just feed it in there. It's only going to be used in your chat, but that's going to think about it again, like giving a new hire like context on your brand, right? You want
Hmm.
them to know what's going on. But yeah, if you do all that, it does a really nice job. It's amazing how it can balance all those complex concepts together and land something that still makes sense and works, pulling it all together.
Yeah, and I know it's hard because this is an audio format, but can you even just really help us visualize maybe some of the more successful campaigns that have come out of Creative Studio?
Yeah, I think let's think off the top of my head. I think what's successful about them, if we're trying to envision the creative here in this
Yeah.
audio format, is really it's about the diversity of scenes, if people can picture that. So meaning like we were talking about with the holiday one, we were alluding to this,
Yeah.
right? Like we used to be fairly constrained on the type of scenes that were good with AI, because the more complicated ones might just start to fall apart and not work, right? And so now
Missing fingers
yeah,
and
exactly. And so now that human generation is so much better, now that we can do more complex product interaction for a lot of products with these video models, you see people they can tell stories. So you can have a story-driven ad. For example, one I was making recently was for a running shoe, and you could blow out that whole story and show the person running up a mountain. It was a trail running shoe, and
wow.
then getting to the peak. And there's no way I could have done that with previous iterations of these tools, and so that was really powerful. But people have also done like demo videos. We had someone build a video for a wine opener brand, and you can kind of picture that with some lifestyle scenes, but also some close-ups of how to actually use the wine opener. So those mix type videos also work pretty well. One other quick tip for folks if that have maybe some product demo videos and they want to convert that into a different type of ad. Another really fun use case is upload that product demo video. The agent will slice it apart and then you can use pieces of it to augment a lifestyle scenes and make a different type of ad. And
That's
so
so
that's something we've
great.
seen that's exciting. And that works really well. Like the wine opener, the opening of the wine opener is still tough for AI, but they were able to get around that because they had kind of a standard product demo, and then they incorporated it and they made it a totally different type of ad that was a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool.
Even when if you have maybe some UGC type content, even
Hmm.
just feeding that to the model sounds like would be really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can augment it with the other types of scenes, and it becomes overall a different type of creative altogether.
And of those who are using the tool, are they using it more for images or video?
We're seeing a fairly even split. So in the process of making a video, you make images, and
Yeah.
and one thing we learned early on when we were doing the first testing is a lot of advertisers were saying, "Can I take those images with me?" And we were like,
Yeah.
"Yes, you can." And that made us realize that people might do that. Like on their way to a video, they might take it with them. But I would say, like, if I look at the data all up so far, it's about 50-50. They're doing kind of a mix of both. Images is definitely quicker, right? So if you're looking for, we were talking about like quick start, like that's going to be easier. You can create dozens of images in 10 minutes or something like that. Video takes a bit longer, but yeah, both are seeing a fair amount of traction.
Well, David, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much for your time and your insight today. Are there any other closing thoughts or you want to share ways to get started?
Yeah, just I'll just share how to get started. So we
Okay.
launched this in the Amazon Ads console today. It is under a wait list, but I recommend everyone get on the wait list as soon as possible. We're doing first come, first serve enrollment over the next few
Exciting.
weeks. And so log into Ads console,
And
go
your
to
cell phone number is what? Say
yeah, 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 get the
that.
special treatment.
Yeah.
So go into Creative Tools, Creative Studio, and you'll see a huge banner there and just click
Awesome.
join waitlist. Yeah.
So exciting and perfect timing.
Yeah,
Holiday is upon us.
absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.